and men do need connection just as much as women, but it's the how that is
Mhm.
often very different in how that manifests.
Sure, because they
And
may need to feel accepted in that they're good enough,
Mhm.
right? That what they have provided or done or built is acceptable, right? They're gonna spend most of their time building the thing, not, nurturing a relationship with someone.
Your health is shaped by more than symptoms. Through real stories and expert insights, we explore how your genetics, environment, and daily choices affect your well being. We uncover root causes and share practical tools to help you find the healing you need. Welcome to the Forum Health Integrative Medicine Podcast.
Welcome back. My name is Amanda. I am here with Dr. Peterson and Erika Shepard, nurse practitioner in Forum Health Denver, and we are continuing our discussion on burnout. Welcome back.
Well, I'm excited for this second episode of Burnout. You actually said something last time that was really, I don't know, it connected to me, and maybe that was the point. It's connectedness. How much our connectedness to other people makes a difference in our physiology. It's not just the non-human environment; it's our human environment, and it just makes so much sense, right? One of the things that we sort of chatted about after we finished that episode was how this affects the men and women a little bit differently. I think, Amanda, you brought that up, and I'd love to dive into that right before we talk about what we're going to do to fix it, because if there is a difference, fixing it might be different.
Yeah. Well, we were unpacking last time about why burnout goes so much deeper than self care. And I think it's interesting that we do see a higher rate of burnout in women than we do it with men. And we do know that men traditionally underreport symptoms and things like that. But I think that there's more to the story of why women do experience burnout in higher rates. And I think there's societal factors to that. And I think that there's also a lot of biology factors to that as well. When we look at society, it was really created with a 24-hour rhythm in mind. It's get up, go to work, produce, come home, and repeat the next day. And that kind of work culture and hustle doesn't always meet the needs of women and our cycles. Even in different eras of our life, we go through different cycles, but we're on a 28-day cycle where we're moving through different forms of focus, creativity, and energy throughout the month. And I was thinking back to when I had turned 35, which is when I should have been acknowledging some of my signs and symptoms of burnout. But when you turn 35, that's around the age where hormones shift once again for women. It's not necessarily perimenopause, but our fertility is shifting and our hormones are shifting once again. And it just kind of helps us look at women a little bit differently. We go through all these different eras and cycles where our stress tolerance and our resilience diminishes over time, but more specifically for women, it does diminish a lot that way as well.
I completely agree with you on that. Is society has changed more in the last 50 years than in the last 500 years.
Yeah,
And
certainly seems like it. I wasn't alive for those 500, but it sure seems like it.
there's no firsthand account, but I've been told. So with that, particularly for women, and Amanda's right that we do have different hormonal cycles, and how our body operates cyclically does impact our energy levels to different degrees. And we are going full bore. Women are working more than ever, but still expected to do the same things of, like, you know, keeping everything together, taking everybody everywhere. If you have kids, taking care of the kids. And it's like, now, not only do you have that much more responsibility than before, but do it all with a smile on your face and tell everybody what a boss lady you are, you know?
Yeah.
And it's
Well, and
exhausting.
to men, I want to just say this, like my husband and, they step up. They're doing a lot more, but women are still doing a lot more today too. It's
100%.
not like it's not that the men aren't contributing in most cases, but there's still just a lot that women are doing
Mhm.
I
that
I hesitate to step into this conversation. I think it's an important conversation.
Yes, it
I
is.
think that obviously there are biological differences between men and women that play a big role in this because of how hormones change for women throughout the month and they don't change for men. A man's hormones are pretty much the same regardless of what day of the month it is. There's a little bit of variation, but sort of like your sleep wake cycle. I mean, it doesn't change day to day. It just changes night to day, right? So we don't have that same impact. We also, like you pointed out, don't have as much of a change depending on where we are in the cycle of life. Should I be, making humans, right? Is my body tuned to becoming pregnant, or is my body now starting to slow down in that, still has the capacity, or has it completely turned off that capacity, right? A man can have children until he's 70. He doesn't have to do any of the work, right?
Mhm.
Um, but I think there's also something else that is really important, and research bears this out. Women are connected to people and men are connected to things. Men
Mm.
think about things and women think about relationships and conversations. And so, if that is such a large part of burnout, then it makes perfect sense that women would be more sensitive to that. Because if I have only one friend, and I probably have only one friend, I'm okay. I got one friend, right? I have a whole bunch of acquaintances. If my wife has only one friend and she doesn't feel connected, it's no good, right? And I certainly I'm not enough to be the one friend because I'm a guy, right? And so I think that connectedness is different between the sexes, and I think it's important for us to recognize that. And quite honestly, it's a blessing, right? The fact that my wife is as connected as she is to me partly connects me to my kids in a way that I otherwise wouldn't be. And I don't want to take anything away from fathers that are, connected to their children without the aid and support of a spouse. But women keep the world connected in an emotional way that I don't think men do, right? We
right,
wouldn't
and
go to
it's our
war if
superpower.
it was all women. What's that?
I said we do, and it's our superpower.
That's right. And it's a
Yeah.
superpower that we should champion instead of say, no, we're all the same. We're exactly the same. No, we're not.
Right.
That's absurd.
Research has a lot to catch up on too. I mean, research is primarily done on men, and that's starting to get corrected. We're seeing more research being and women being represented in that also. And so there's just a lot we don't know about women too.
You know what I love about that and what is both rich and ironic is that if we are in fact the same, it won't matter. We can do all the research on men. But we're
Yes.
not the same. So let's stop pretending we are and let's champion the thing about our counterpart that is so amazing, right? My admiration for the strengths the women have doesn't mean that I don't think men contribute, but it means I don't think I could contribute that way, right? They do that better than I do. And thank
Mhm.
goodness, right? So just the fact that we want more research on women implies they must be different.
Right. And I will say this too. Men, you're right on those differences between men and women. And men do need connection just as much as women, but it's the how that is
Mhm.
often very different in how that manifests.
Sure, because they
And
may need to feel accepted in that they're good enough,
mhm.
right? That what they have provided or done or built is acceptable, right? They're going to spend most of their time building the thing, not, nurturing a relationship with someone, but they still need that acceptance and they still need that care.
And I
Yeah.
think that men who are in a relationship of some sort, or if they have a significant other in their life, I think that I know I kind of control the social calendar
Mhm.
in my household, right? So
100%. I don't even know what the
I
calendar is. I just show up and say, where are we going?
so and my husband had to at when I was going through my period of time, he had to develop his own social calendar, and that was out of his comfort zone. It started to affect him too. So I do think that like women contribute to their partner's overall sense of well-being and connectedness because it's one of our, callings, or it's part of our nature
Yeah.
to be that
And
for.
you yes. And you 2 just brought up a great point because 'cause you're talking about your partners, and together you create an ecosystem, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Together you
Yep.
create an environment. And when you guys share that load, like, how great that feels, and also you know what the gap would be or have experienced the gap, or they've experienced the gap when that's not there, and
That's
how
right.
much
Mhm.
more that is life-wise. And right now, I don't have a partner. I moved here by myself to Colorado, and I'm not here to say poor woe is me, but I have really had to use this time and opportunity to really be selective about the ecosystem I'm creating,
Right.
right? And
That's
how
Yeah,
beautiful.
you're not gonna get it by default. You have to be proactive, more proactive.
exactly. And I'm like, listen, I might not have a husband right now, but I do have DoorDash that can bring me a delicious hot meal. And it feels so nurturing, something healthy and delicious. And it's like you're the collective boyfriend that I am
Yes.
making in my
Well, it
life.
probably it probably helps if you talk to the DoorDash person and say thank you, because then you're emotionally connected too.
And then I'm emotionally connected. Exactly. But it is getting creative about, okay, even if you're not technically like part of an ecosystem, you're always inherently part of one. So how are you going to create that and make your life feel balanced? Because again, when you try to do everything and whatnot, that's when that burnout starts to accumulate.
I think that's important too. It's not just like like you don't how are you going to build those relationships if you're not in one, or if you've just moved? I have got a lot of friends, and in my previous life, I had made a big move and was solo in that move too. And I used like Bumble BFF, and I met the coolest group of women in my area that today are my second family.
Yep.
And I used to coach a lot of people in how to engage with your community and how do you create that space for yourself, and going to the workout classes and making a new friend, or what are the interests that you have, go take a class. Someone I know loves pretzels, and he just moved to Seattle, and so he went and took a pretzel making class.
Yes.
Like, there's so many fun things that you can do, but we're also in this era where like everything's on your phone, and it's really easy, really, really easy to be an introvert and not put yourself out there. We've made it really easy, hence why we're seeing so much burnout. I mean, we are seeing that after we shut the world down in 2020 and had to go isolate. Like, I don't think it's a surprise that 4 years later, we're seeing higher rates of burnout now.
I wanna throw out one more thing, I'm sure you guys will agree with this. There's something unique about the interaction with other people being one that is service to them. Now, when I say service, it doesn't mean that it has to be at the soup kitchen, right? You could teach the pretzel class. And if you teach the pretzel class, you're having a different experience than if you take the pretzel class,
Mhm.
right? Because you're giving something of yourself to these other people. And you could be, quite honestly, it could be a business, but you are serving them, right? And that's a different experience than just saying, oh, what am I going to do because I enjoy doing this? I could, join the Silver Sneakers and walk around the mall and talk to people, and that'd be great. But I could also start the Silver Sneakers, and then it's a different experience. And I think it treats our disconnectedness in an entirely different way. And we don't have to lead everything, and we don't have to serve every time. But if that's not part of what we're doing, I think we're missing one of the pieces of that connectedness. All right, well, let's jump to the medicine, because I don't. I think our
I
listeners
was
are
gonna say
probably.
that was a fun detour, but I think it was such a good topic to discuss too. It needs to be talked about more.
Right.
But so
At Forum Health, we uncover the why behind your symptoms. With advanced lab testing, hormone optimization, and cutting-edge therapies, we help you heal and perform your best. And now, through shopforumhealth.com, you can access physician-grade supplements trusted by our providers, supporting everything from adrenal health to focus and longevity. Learn more at forumhealth.com and explore supplements at shopforumhealth.com.
Last episode, we talked about what is burnout, why self care isn't enough, and how it shows up in our lifestyle, our community, mind body connection, and our cellular health. Erika, I have a question. If I were on this journey all over again and
Uh-huh.
I had known it was burnout, what could I do to measure it? Or what would you look at as a provider to say, to confirm, Amanda, you've got burnout, and here's some
Objective
results to show
evidence.
you.
What they've reported, I want to take a full functional medicine blood panel. I want to look at their cortisol levels. I want to look at, just their entire blood count. I want to look at their different hormone levels and just see where their body processes are on that front. Um, the other thing that I want to check for some people, I really love working with the gut. And so burnout can really manifest in the gut in a lot of ways. It's like, what was first, the chicken or the egg? A lot of times we're not going to know, but we want to see how things are functioning on that level. And,
What are you gonna what test do you like for the gut? Is there a specific, do you do the gut zoomer? Do you do Genovas? Is there something where you'd say, "Oh, when I see this?"
yeah, especially with the
Because I think
fatigue,
patients wanna know, "Well, what test should I do?"
right?
Mhm.
I get so many patients that are like, I'm fatigued, right? And I like the Genova 3-day stool test and the SIBO test. Mind you, a lot of my patients do not complain of gut symptoms. They do not. They're
I
not.
know. I have to tell people, "We're gonna do this test, but my gut's fine." Well, we'll find out with the
We'll
test.
find out. And I have yet to
Right?
see
It'd
anybody
be
with
like
a
telling me I don't
feedback.
have cancer. Well, how do we know? Let's look.
Yeah. So, what tends to happen with prolonged stress is that it affects the microbiome and it is a big contributor to SIBO. Just small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, because when you're stressed, that gut motility slows down and the bacteria are like, yay, and they crawl up into your small intestine because they can. And that can cause a lot of imbalance. And so, again, the price of prolonged stress, even if you finally fix your life, you're in good relationships, you got the dream job and everything else, and you're still feeling kind of, then it's like the damage has been done and we need to go into the body now and fix whatever the long-term repercussions of that stress was. Okay, so I'm looking at the blood work and I'm looking at the gut. Those are my big things. And I like the
What
Genova
are you gonna
3-day
find in the
stool.
blood work? Are you, what do you typically see with their, say, their cortisol or their hormones? What are you seeing?
Yeah, so either their cortisol can be really high or it could be tanked. Like it could be go one or two ways on that. Sometimes their cortisol's okay. A lot of times I'll see their hormones are out of balance. For men, it's the lower testosterone. For women, it's a whole hodgepodge of how that can shake
More
out.
complicated. Yeah, we
More
Just
a
should
a
little more
agree.
hodgepodge.
complicated. Just a
Yep.
hodgepodge. Yeah, just I know it's a medical term too. It's a hodgepodge of
Well, and
problems.
I think patients wanna know because they can go online and order some labs, and more power to them, they should. But then what are we gonna look for? How are we gonna say, "Oh, this is what we're gonna do?" So those are great details. I appreciate that.
Absolutely, totally. And I also definitely checking the thyroid because stress can do a number on the thyroid. So I'm always checking their thyroid levels too around that. And everybody's different. So some people, you know, they come back with, their gut looks okay, but they have SIBO, like they don't have dysbiosis, but they have SIBO. And then we treat the SIBO and they're like, oh my gosh, I feel so much better. But I will say the people that don't take care of that relational piece and their external environment will fix all their problems and then be back 6 months later. I'm starting to feel not great again. Right. And so
Yeah,
it's
you gotta treat both
both.
sides. You can't just say hi to the DoorDash guy and thank you.
Yeah.
You can't just have a good relationship with your kids. If you have, hormone dysfunction, that has to be treated too.
It
What I
does.
liked about
Exactly.
what you had brought up last time is that I think functional medicine does focus, much better on people's hormones or their thyroid or their gut. We do those things, and people probably know we do those things. But I hope we also pay attention to our psychological and spiritual health, because if we neglect those, then we'll stay sick. So,
Right.
Well,
I
and
think
well, when people listen to a podcast, they want to know the medicine. So we're going to stay there for a little bit.
yeah. I will say this though, I was able to identify what areas to like address, correct from that psychological standpoint. And I started to feel better, but it's corrected. Why don't I feel we didn't get here overnight. Our
correct.
relationships and our stress did not land us to the edge of burnout or at the point of burnout
Mhm.
because we got here overnight. And I think that that's why I think getting labs and things like that has been really validating for me. I did have my hormones were kind of all over the place, a little bit wacky. I had low
Right.
testosterone, all that stuff. And, it's starting to help, but it's seeing the progress in the labs because I know what I've been able to do from a self care, from what's in my control
Mhm.
of my life. But
Yes,
I also know that I'm still seeing the results and I'm still getting better. Even though there's things
exactly.
that are corrected, I still have to give my body time to correct what was damaged or influenced by all
Mhm.
of this. I have to
Yep.
give that an appropriate time frame. What if somebody is, let's say me, I've been on this journey since the beginning of the year. I think I got a little bit of a late start with the functional and integrative side of it.
Right.
And I think recovery and healing does look different for everybody, but how long are you looking for somebody to stick with you when you're correcting some of the biology with the gut stuff and the cellular medicine and the health? Like how long should people expect to be going through a treatment process for burnout?
I give people the expectation, give me 6 months to a year to, you know, work on the different pieces. Again,
When do they first start to see some improvement? I mean, I'm sure that varies, but what would you expect?
I'd expect with giving some of the therapies that we give that you should start to feel at least a little something within a month.
That's what I
Just
would think.
yeah,
And that's
yeah,
what I want listeners to hear because this is not 12 months from now, you'll feel better. This is, you're going to feel better, but you can't stop too soon.
exactly. We got to keep going, making the baby steps. And, my approach. So, for example, I had a patient coming in today. The only thing he's really here for is fatigue. He wants to feel more optimal, not as fatigued. And he's taken amazing care of himself, actually. Somebody who's doing all the right things. But I gave him, we want to test your gut, your blood.
Okay.
And when we get the results, we'll come up with a response. But the place I always want to start with people who are especially experiencing the fatigue and the like, oh, I know I could have more gas in my tank is the mitochondria. And
All right. Go
so,
into that. What are you going to do for that guy? Or what did
yep,
you do for him?
yep. So the mitochondria, I really love to juice them up with some supplementation that's to help heal it. So I love ATP 360 from Research Nutritionals that helps heal the cell wall of the mitochondria, which is where the energy cycle happens. And so if that's beat up, you need to heal the cell wall. I also love using NAD injectables here. I experienced so much improvement from that myself. And so from my own personal experience, I'm like, okay, we want that, but we also want to heal the cell wall itself. So I like to combine those two. And then poly
So I
MBA
think
is
I think it might be
yeah,
valuable for listeners to understand why that cell wall is so important. Um, and I don't want to put you on the spot. I'm happy to if you want to explain that, or I can explain it. But there's something important that happens at a cell wall, and so you can't just give people energy. It would be sort of like saying, "I need more gas in my tank." Yeah, there's holes in your gas tank. It won't
exactly.
matter how much we pour in there, right?
Yes,
And so that membrane, the mitochondrial membrane, is where the energy is actually created. That's where the ATP is being created. And that's why fixing that matters. And that's actually partly why toxins make such a big impact because if you have toxins in your cell membrane, it can't work like it's supposed to. Right.
exactly.
And so, anyway, I think that because when you say ATP 360, fantastic product. Why does
Mhm.
it work? Oh, the membrane. Well, what does that do?
Exactly. Yeah, and Dr. Peterson is exactly right. I love that metaphor is like you're filling up a gas tank with holes in it and you got to patch up the holes. So that what that supplement does is it patches the holes in your cell membranes, which is very important.
Yeah.
Totally.
All right. What else? So you're going to give them NAD. Now, how do
Hmm.
you like to do NAD? You give it IV?
We do it
Give
IV
it
here as
orally?
well. And we do have the sublingual. because it gets too eaten up in the digestive tract by taking it straight up orally. So we do recommend either sublingual or twice a week injections, which is what I did. And I mean, I could feel it. I was like, whoa. It's like a
I'm going to throw this
whoa.
out there. Who knows whether it stays or not? But I have one patient in particular who he kept trying NAD. He'd suck on it, he'd swallow it. He finally he got his capsules. He took them rectally, and he was like, "God, it finally works." Oh, yeah, there is a
That
first pass
digestive
effect. We
tract.
will break it down. So, not
It works.
recommending that approach, but it does work.
Again, bypassing the digestive tract.
That's right. You got to avoid that liver first pass metabolism.
Exactly, exactly. So, yeah, fantastic. And then another supplement we really like is called poly-MVA, and it's a combination of minerals, vitamins, and aminos. And those can really help the ATP production within the mitochondria. So, I'm always combining what's going to fix the cell membrane because a lot of people got them leaks. And no matter even how clean you eat or how non-toxic you are, we live in a very toxic world that's just bombarded. So, I'm like, I know you try so hard, and we just
Yeah, you're probably not avoiding the toxins. You're
you're
doing,
probably
and not to say you should throw caution to the wind. Do everything
exactly,
you can to avoid toxins, but we still live in a modern world with 80,000 chemicals that have been added to the MSD data sheet in the last 50 years,
which is
right? Like,
bananas.
yeah. So,
It's
and then
insane.
thank
So
goodness, because I really like things like my iPhone and I don't know, my shoes, right? Like
right.
my basketball shoes would not work so good with leather soles, right? So I'm not
Exactly.
criticizing the modern world, but it is polluted.
Right, we just
Yes.
need to take care of ourselves. So, talking about, you know, our bodies not being able to communicate properly. So this goes back to connection. But it's like now we're talking about connection on a cellular level. And so if you're not connecting right on a cellular level, then you're also going to get burned out and that feeling of like exhaustion, fatigue, because again, these cells are not connecting properly. So addressing that mitochondrial health and the cellular health is huge. And so for that guy, we're going to address that. I have another patient who has been dealing with fatigue again, doing all the right things, and her her gut test, she doesn't have gut issues, but she came back for 7 out of 10 dysbiosis on the Genova 3-day stool and, methane dominant SIBO. And she's like, "Well,
Right.
this
So when you
didn't."
say she doesn't have gut issues, you mean she doesn't have symptoms.
Correct. Gut
Well, she's
symptoms.
got
Thank you.
issues. She just
She's got
doesn't feel them.
issues. Thank you. She's got more issues than Sports Illustrated, but she
Yeah.
doesn't have any symptoms. Correct on
Right.
that front. Exactly. And so that's why it's so important because she's like, "Is this why I'm feeling so fatigued?" And I'm like, "Yeah, this is part of it." And so we're again that whole addressing the whole person.
I think
So,
that's worth mentioning here too, and I'm sure you know this, but we make our neurotransmitters in our gut,
yep,
right? And I don't know that the listeners all understand that. You make 90% of your serotonin in your gut.
yep,
Well, if you've got gut dysbiosis, good luck making any of that neurotransmitter that's going to make you feel good.
exactly. And that's why a lot of people after gastric bypass go into a depression because you just took out a bunch of your
You remove
yeah,
the factory.
yeah, you remove the factory.
Yep.
So we've got addressing cellular health is one of your main focuses when you are working with somebody with burnout.
Yep.
And I was just going to say, what's another strategy that we can work with? And Dr. Peterson took the words right out of my mouth. How about some peptides?
Right on time. Yes.
We love
So
some
here at
peptides.
Form Health Denver, we use a lot of peptide therapy to be able to enhance the body, what the body already does. So what peptides do is they assist the body in what it already does to help optimize and do it even better. So there are multiple peptides that I honestly I did a lot of research and not that these peptides are specifically for burnout, but they can help with mitochondrial repair. They can help with, you know, neuro how the body communicates with its neurotransmitters. It can improve that. And so it's not that they treat burnout specifically, but they treat the damage that's been done by burnout so the body can heal itself. And
Yes.
so there's different ones. There's epitalin, there's thymosin alpha 1 and 2. There's all kinds. And then, honestly, what's been really interesting is we do a lot of tirzepatide here and we do it microdose for a lot of people. And at a microdose, one of the benefits of tirzepatide is it's anti-inflammatory. So the inflammation that's been caused by this long-term stress and burnout we get a lot of patients reporting, I want what I've loved most about the tirzepatide is my brain fog and fatigue are so much better,
Right.
right?
Oh,
They're
I
not
hear that
using
all the
it for
time with
weight
chronically ill
loss.
patients. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, let me
100%.
have you, if you don't mind, tell our listeners what is a peptide, just so because they hear, I think that word, people hear it all the time now and they're like, I don't know what it is. Could you explain that for them?
Okay, so yes, a peptide is a compound of 2 or more amino acids, which are proteins, and they are linked in a chain. And so when they're distributed, these proteins, amino acids go into the body and they'll attach to certain receptor sites in the body to create a certain response. So there's all kinds of peptides, which are these amino acid chains, and they do all kinds of things. The most people are most commonly knowing right now the GLP-1s, right? And those are peptides.
Sure. Yeah. In fact, there's a peptide that everyone has heard about, but no one remembers that it's a peptide called insulin.
Good old insulin,
Yeah. And
exactly.
if anybody pays attention and understands something about digestion, the thing about amino acids in a string, if
Mhm.
it's a long string of amino acids, it's called protein.
Mhm.
And if it's less than 50 amino acids in a string, it's called a peptide.
There you
Now,
go.
most peptides that are signaling molecules are much shorter than 50. Like you say, they could be 2, they could be 3, they could be 9. As it turns out, if we take them orally, our body doesn't know what they are, and it just digests them as though they were protein. And
Yeah,
so
like a good
that's
old
why,
piece of steak.
yeah, they tried real hard to make Rybelsus work, but just sorry, it's not gonna, right?
Right.
So,
And that's why you do the injectables. And so we give these peptides, they're all in like subcutaneous injectables you do in your stomach area to again evoke the desired response that it gives inside the body.
mhm. There's one other thing that I think is worth our listeners knowing about peptides. Our body makes these,
Yes.
right? It's not like this is a drug that we
No.
invented and thank you, Pfizer or Eli Lilly. No, this is something that the body makes. It's a signaling molecule. It's like a hormone. In fact, sometimes when we say the word hormone, we are lumping peptides in with them. Hormones are really these signaling molecules that are a ringed structure rather than a chain.
Exactly. And so there's a lot of I think we're just even scratching the surface of what peptide therapy can do to help optimize the body and biohacking and all of that, but especially in the realm of burnout. And I've even been impressed since I've started working here of people who've been playing with peptides for a while, even before I joined the practice, and how much they're like, this helped my depression, this helped my brain fog, this helped my fatigue. And I'm like, oh man, this is powerful.
Now, are you, because I imagine the answer is yes and yes. You're learning those sorts of things from some of the patients or from Dr. Grover or from some
Both.
of the other colleagues? Okay, that's what I would expect because I have patients that come in and tell me, hey, I'm using this. Here's how. It's phenomenal. I'm like, oh,
Yes.
that's good. That's good to know. That's the beauty of the information age. I have learned so much from my patients. I think on the balance, I've
Exactly.
learned as much from them as they have from me. I'm just sharing the information with the next guy.
Exactly. I'm
So,
like, oh, well, I'm going to use that on Joe Smith over here. Thanks.
yeah,
Totally.
exactly.
100%.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. So there's this whole body approach. You're going to treat gut. You're going to treat the sort of cell membrane. You're going to treat the fuel tank with NAD, peptides to help with signaling. Are there other things that we haven't mentioned yet?
I'm a big fan of primal wisdom. And so I've done a lot of world travels and I like to observe and see, okay, what have we been doing for thousands of years that is helpful to human health? And so I love getting patients into habits of grounding, which is being barefoot on the ground. I recommend saunaing a lot because, again, you want to be detoxing regularly. So I do a lot of lymph habits with people, like teaching them like dry brushing and doing these different body movements that can promote the lymph to move because your lymph system does not move on its own. It
Yeah.
has to be
No,
moved with
like a vibration
circulation.
plate or a
Yep.
rebounder.
Huh? Absolutely. Or just going up and down on the ground with your heels hitting the ground if you got nothing else to do while you're putting your makeup on or brushing your teeth. You can do that and that can stimulate lymph flow and it's the dumpster of our body. So just think of, the lymph as
That's
like
probably why I've got so much edema is I'm not putting on my makeup long enough.
you're not putting your makeup on long enough, Dr. Peterson. Give it a few more minutes. So I really am into like grounding those practices and then sauning. I mean, most cultures in the world have some that I've been to, over in Europe. I was just in Hungary. Everybody goes after school or work to the sauna houses and they sweat and they commune, right?
And
So
and
it's
what
two
they're
for
and what they're
one.
doing what they're doing is detoxifying, right? Like that's
Exactly.
everything you just described, the lymphatic, all of these approaches, sauna, it's
Yep.
to detoxify. The
Exactly.
ground is a little bit different because it's getting rid of oxidative stress in a way because it's diffusing electrons out of your body. It'd be like when you ground your television or any other appliance in your house. But detoxing, it's obvious. It makes sense. What's the stress coming from? Well, so many sources, but toxins are one. So do these detox things.
We're not detoxing. Again, it's going to back up and it's going to cause those holes in the cell membrane from the damage. So it's like it's regular maintenance that is of these things that can really help make a difference long term and the consistency because you can't just rebound once and think you're going to make
Yeah,
the job. And I'm
exactly.
always about habit stacking. James Clear talks about this in Atomic Habits, like how can you kill two or three or four birds with one stone? So
Yeah.
how can you stack
Yeah,
these
I
things?
I I try to describe detoxing like vacuuming or dusting your house. You don't vacuum once. You don't vacuum when it's so dirty that you can't see the carpet anymore. You vacuum every week, maybe 3 times a week. It depends on if you have toddlers, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's something you do all the time. So
Yes.
well, so I feel like we've talked about sort of the biological aspect to this. If it's okay, tell me what things you are most impressed by when it comes to the connectedness. Are there programs that you recommend? Are you a fan of counseling or group therapy? What sorts of things in the connectedness realm would you recommend on top of these physical things?
As far as connectedness, there are certain things that I recommend to everybody. One is internal family systems therapy or a type of somatic therapy. I find that much more effective for people to connect to themselves than just regular talk therapy. And there's nothing wrong with regular talk therapy. That's why it's a great thing for a lot of people, but I just find it more effective to connect to self. Group therapy is great too, because again, you have that other to reflect to. And even if you don't have problems in your life, I look at it as hygiene. Like, go for hygiene. The other thing is go into spaces and places that make you feel lit up. And so, like CrossFit isn't for everybody, but it's where I feel connected to people with exercise. Other people, it's Pilates. My friend back
Mm,
home, she secretly goes to jazzercise because that's where she still feels like the most connected.
I love that.
So what makes you feel like most connected and at home? And it's different for everybody, but and where you can also go into spaces that you can consistent. Meetup is also a great thing online where you can find an event. Most cities have them, meetup.com. I've recommended that to a lot of patients. And you can find community events or spaces and places that align to you. Some people like finding a spiritual home at a church. If that aligns for you, that can be great. But again, a place that makes you feel alive and feel most connected. And so it's getting curious about that for yourself and making it consistent.
Nice.
Awesome.
Well, I feel like you've done a nice job helping people understand all the steps to this. It's not just psychological, it's not just physical, and it's not going to be the same for everyone. And we can see this happen in our loved ones, and we have to be able to recognize that, if it's happening for someone around me, maybe I need to understand their differences, my spouse, and say, oh, well, there is a difference between the genders.
I would say too to that, Dr. Peterson, is don't be afraid to talk to somebody if you're noticing the signs and the symptoms. I was too proud to notice it on my own. My friends had an intervention with me and told me that I was different. I wasn't as engaged. I was just not my normal self. So don't be afraid to talk to somebody and help them see the signs and symptoms if they cannot see it at the time because they're exhausted right now. They're on survival mode.
And sometimes you'll save a life, but sometimes you'll save their joy. And we
Yes.
Yes.
need to have joy in our lives, right? So don't wait until you're like, "Ooh, they're standing at the edge." No, let's
Yes.
save each other's joy now.
Well,
Yes.
this is really late to the game, but I thought your answer just helped me recognize the fifth most common symptom of withdrawal. I know an hour later, but I'm sorry, of burnout is withdrawal. The fifth most common symptom is
Yes.
starting to isolate and withdraw.
And it matters. We need to be
Exactly.
connected to each other. Well, I feel a lot of hope. Tell us, before we finish, tell us just a little bit about your experience there in Denver and how people can come and connect with you, see you, and get your care.
Totally. Okay, you can hear me. So, you can come see us in Denver. You can actually live anywhere in the US. We have multiple offerings, and if you do end up being annual member at the practice, you just have to be in Denver once a year. So that's pretty nifty. But come find us. You can Google Forum Health Denver. You can find me on Instagram at Nurse Erika Shepard and connect with me. And I would love to just have a 15-minute free consultation with you to discuss your symptoms and what you're looking to optimize your health and well-being.
I know you'll be well cared for.
Thank
So
you.
don't hesitate to reach out to our Denver office.
Thank you so much.
Well, this was such a great episode. I learned so much. One, for testing, it's going to look different for everybody because burnout affects everybody on a cellular level, and that's going to be unique to each person. And some of the functional medicine approaches and strategies are treating the mitochondria, but not just the mitochondria, but also their cellular membrane is so important. Discussing options like peptides with your integrative and functional provider can be life-changing for some of those symptoms to help support the body and those signals. And prevention is key. And prevention is going to look like some of the self-care, being proactive, detoxing your body on a regular basis, getting those toxins out, whether it's a medically supervised detox, a sauna session, some lymphatic drainage or support. But at the end of the day, burnout is not the end of your story or my story or anybody's story, because there is a path to regaining your vibrancy. So thank you so much, Erika, for showing that to us through these 2 episodes.
Yes, absolutely. And I would leave with just one last wisdom is that burnout is a teacher. It is not your end all be all. It is simply a teacher, and it can be the opportunity to guide you to your best health ever.
I love that.
Awesome. Great to talk to you guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe and listen, and stay tuned for our next episode.
Thank you for joining us on the Forum Health Integrative Medicine podcast. Each episode, we help you understand your health from every angle and inspire your lifelong wellness journey. Follow the show, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a review, and take the next step toward feeling your best at forumhealth.com.